Now I'd like to introduce my next guest speaker, Helen Morrison. Helen's now retired, and Helen was a highly respected, high-ranking qualified NHS nurse. And we know how we all love our nurses and value our nurses. She's legendary for her charitable work across a wider range of good causes, including Rotary. Helen Morrison is an accomplished public speaker. She's travelled the world promoting the works of her bard, Robert Burns. She's held in great respect in both Russia and the USA, and has toured large parts of Australia, delivering Robert Burns' The Immortal Memory. Today, Helen will tell us about the Scottish and Leningrad Albums, an amazing story of the women of Airdrie and Coatbridge who signed greetings of solidarity to the women of Leningrad during the 900-day siege of Leningrad in 1941 and 42. An unusual and heartwarming collaboration between Scottish and Russian women during World War II, a story that few will have heard of. And ladies and gentlemen, Helen Morrison. Thank you, Helen.
Good afternoon, Angela and Rotarians. Thank you for inviting me to speak on this beautiful sunny day. And it's a pleasure to be here today and an honour to be associated with Rotary. Karine, you are a survivor because the Lord has work for you to do. He needs your hands and feet to do it. You bring hope to others and are an inspiration in finding your feet. I thoroughly enjoyed your story. Thank you. Thank you.
Alec, want to run the presentation?
Good afternoon. I would like to thank Angela Sampson, the Rotary District Governor, for inviting me to share with you the story of the Scottish and Leningrad Albums. Let me begin by giving a context to this wonderful story that few people in Scotland and indeed the United Kingdom know about. It concerns an act of human kindness towards a besieged city and its people, facing certain impending doom. The invasion was codenamed Operation Barbarossa, and Hitler unleashed against the Soviet Union a military invasion on a scale unknown in the military history of human conflict. The people in Leningrad soon learned that the wanton destruction and brutality against civilians was being practiced with much greater zeal than in other countries. The Nazi propaganda reflected Hitler's hate for communism. The Leningraders feared for their lovely city as much as they feared for themselves and their children. In Britain, feelings of admiration and solidarity grew for the Soviet Union, and people all over the world were united in grief for the agony suffered by the people of Leningrad. In Airdrie, the Russian Today Society decided to send messages of admiration and support to the people of Leningrad, encouraging them to carry on with their fight and to remind them that they were not forgotten. These greetings were bound into an album known as the Scottish Album. This act of kindness inspired and encouraged them and made them more determined to survive their hardships. Survivors stated it was the turning point for them and gave them the will to live. From this point onwards, the city of Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, has had a love affair with Scotland and all things Scottish. In response to the album and against all odds, famous artists, broadcasters and poets created a beautiful gift of letters, watercolours, prints and lithographs known as the Leningrad Album. This short presentation gives the details of this remarkable act of solidarity and friendship between the Soviet and Scottish peoples and their contribution to the cause of peace the world over. Nothing is forgotten, no one is forgotten. This is the story of the women of Airdrie and Coatbridge who sent an album of greetings and to survey their feelings of admiration and solidarity to the women of Leningrad during the 900-day siege of the Soviet Union by Hitler. This is what it was like for the people of Leningrad. Hunger, starvation, cold, bombing, destruction, and death. In 900 days before the siege was lifted, almost 1 million of its citizens were to die of starvation. And although no one will ever know exactly, the Russians believe approximately 1.2 million people died. That was half the population of Leningrad at that time. For comparison, the UK lost, including both civilians and military personnel, approximately 660,000 people during 1939 to 1945. In Leningrad, more than 750,000 of civilians alone died in the Great Patriotic War of 1939 to 1945. 20 to 25 million people, 5 times the population of Scotland, died. And if you put the dead of Nagasaki and Hiroshima together, 4 times more people died in Leningrad. Shocking statistics. As Robert Burns, Scotland's national poet, said, man's inhumanity to man makes countless thousands mourn. In 900 days, the Russians lost 50% of the population of Leningrad due to starvation and cold. No wonder the poet Nekrasov wrote, "There is a Tsar. That Tsar is without mercy. Hunger is what they call him. Nothing is forgotten. No one is forgotten." Margaret Henderson, the author of the Dear Allies book in 1988, chronicled the events surrounding the Scottish and Leningrad albums. Under the guidance of lecturer Elena Gromanova, students from Petoskey College in 2009 translated the book into Russian, and a copy was given to the Provost of North Lanarkshire. The Scottish album. Margaret Plant, art teacher at Airdrie Academy, designed the cover and decorated it with the Buchanan tartan, with a thistle down the left-hand side and a Burns quote, "A man's a man for all that," on the right. Lord Buchanan had a large estate in Coatbridge, and Drumpellier Golf Club is built there now. This slide illustrates one of the letters written to the heroic women of Leningrad from the women of Airdrie and Coatbridge. We wish to express our boundless admiration for the heroic struggle you are waging against the barbaric armies of Nazi Germany, the enemy of all freedom-loving people. Our hearts go out to you in this your hour of supreme agony and trial. But we are confident that the resolution and self-sacrifice shown by you will shatter the fascist hordes, and that the brutal enemy shall never trample your beloved city. We solemnly pledge ourselves to do everything possible to rouse the women of Britain in this fight, and will leave nothing undone that will ensure the quickest and most effective aid being given to your country. Your fight is our fight, and we shall not fail you or be unworthy of your great sacrifice. This is a painting of Edinburgh Castle drawn by a local Airdrie artist. Beneath is one of the finest tributes to Robert Burns, the Bard of Caledonia, by Janet Hamilton, a Coatbridge poetess. He is nature's noblest, brightest, dearest son. Large, loving heart and independent mind were his, not to be bought or worked, but one to love and sympathy for all mankind. The Scottish album was dispatched to Leningrad in January 1942, and confirmation of its arrival was received in June of that year, 79 years ago. It was just unbelievable that the women of Leningrad, struggling with disease and hunger and face-to-face with death, should find time to respond to the pledge of solidarity and admiration. But miracles do happen. Unfortunately, no copy of this album was kept. The good news is that Elizabeth Clark, former chairman of St. Petersburg Forum, and her husband Tom have kept the story alive. Both of them are Rotarians and were presented with the Paul Harris Award for their charitable works, including that with the St. Petersburg Forum. The Forum were presented with a digitised copy of the Scottish album, and Tom will collect a facsimile copy of it, which the city created to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Allied victory of World War II. This will be presented to the Mitchell Library in Glasgow. A copy will also be presented to the Provost Jean Jones of North Lanarkshire Council. Nothing is forgotten, no one. is forgotten. The Leningrad album comes to Scotland. The Commission for the Arts and Smolny authorities gave the seal of approval, and the album was presented to the Provost of Glasgow by Madame Maskey, wife of the Russian ambassador, in February 1943. In 2005, Glasgow City provided St. Petersburg with a facsimile copy, and I had the great joy of seeing both albums side by side in St. Petersburg. In 2019, a copy was given to North Lanarkshire Council, and I wept when I saw it there at Airdrie Library after 70 plus years. The Leningrad album is regarded as a priceless treasure. It was beautifully produced with contributions from ordinary people, art historians and artists. It contains letters, watercolours, prints and lithographs, and was bound together with thick linen and mounted with fine Russian embroidery. Each artist completed their own contribution, and it was put together within 5 days and 5 nights by artists like Anna Petronova Ostromova Lebedeva, who illustrated and coordinated the album. Anna was a famous Russian artist, and the album's pages are decorated with watercolours, which were mainly her work. Vera Vladimirovna Milyatina produced this coat of arms of the USSR. She also produced the coat of arms of Great Britain. They were painted in the Baroque style, decorated with gold and silver, with numerous lions and unicorns, leopards, crowns, knights and shields, on intertwined pale blue ribbons with the rose of England and the thistle of Scotland. May I remind you that the flags and artists' works were produced under extreme conditions of vitamin deficiency, scurvy, anemia, and starvation. Vera wrote the following about her contribution to the flags. It fell on me to find information about the British flag. I had to go to the library of the Academy of Sciences to get them in colour. I had to walk all the way. I had to rest frequently. And when I reached the library, the staff informed me they had no strength left to climb to the second floor. I would have to come back. The following day, I left home at dawn and was able to work on the flags and crests for several hours. Olga Bergorts, famous journalist and poetess, did for Leningrad what Robert Burns did with his pen. She gave, through her broadcasts and poems, hope, love, righteousness, justice, and freedom. Look how prophetic her words are. Again, from the black dust, from the place of death and ashes, will rise the garden as before. So it will be. I firmly believe in miracles, and you gave me that belief, my Leningrad. Vera Milutina visited Airdrie at least on 3 occasions. She died at the age of 84 years. A few weeks prior to her death, she sent a message to the people of Airdrie and Coatbridge. The album, sent by the women of Airdrie and Coatbridge, and the reply by the women of Leningrad, was their joint contribution to the cause of peace. I am sure that for future generations, these albums will remain proofs of the great patriotism of the Soviet and Scottish peoples, of their courage, and above all, the sincere friendship which links our two countries. I am convinced that your work will be a contribution to the cause of peace the world over. Her message made me reflect on the words of the students at Petrosky College. Little do we realise how awful it was to live in those days. I wish and pray that the siege will never happen again. Every year, the government of St. Petersburg and the Association for International Cooperation hold a 3-day festival called Days of Scotland in St. Petersburg. And here you see the St. Petersburg Forum delegates and the Russians remember those who gave their lives for love, justice and freedom. I will conclude my presentation in the words of Olga Bergot. The hard times will pass away. Life will be easier. Let this tale live forever in our heart, forever heard, and let its memory be our conscience. Nothing is forgotten. No one is forgotten. Thank you.